say first do no harm. Were the lockdowns helpful for our society?
I'm Dr. Mark McDonald. I'm a child psychiatrist practicing out of West Los Angeles, and I see primarily children, but I also treat adults. My opinion is that the shutdown, specifically the shutdown of the schools, was the single biggest mistake in the government response to this pandemic. Since then, a confluence, I would say a sort of holy or unholy trinity of politicians, of media, of special interest groups like the teachers' unions have, I think it's fair to say, conspired to keep people in fear. We are in a pandemic, but it is not a medical pandemic. It is a pandemic of emotion, of fear. People have been terrorized. My patients come to my practice, if they even come at all, and they tell me that their kids are wetting their beds, they're scratching themselves while they sleep, they're attacking each other with knives at home in the kitchen while their parents go to work. The children in my practice, they've suffered more than I've seen in my 8-9 years of private practice. The lockdowns and the closures have not helped. I do believe that there is a way out of this, and I think that we've all, in the last 24 hours, everyone sitting at the table, have conclusively shown that. If we can remove the fear so that we can go back to our lives, removing the masks, the social distancing, the little stickers at Trader Joe's that tell us what direction of our cart to push in the store so we don't kill somebody on the opposite side of the peanut aisle. All of these small liberties, small freedoms that have been taken away from us, if we can restore safety and a sense of comfort and trust by using this medication, then I think the fear can go away. I think we can get back to our lives. But the end game here, the end game for all of these parties that have moved and conspired to keep us down, to keep us locked in, is to remove every possible option and choice in our lives. It's not just about closing the schools and closing the businesses. It's also about removing the option to go to charter schools, to homeschool, to open your own business. You now have to have a license in Los Angeles, a permit to post a sign on your business saying that takeout food is available. And if you don't pay the permit fee, you get a ticket, $300. So this is more than just about medicine, and it's more than just about compliance. It's really a much bigger issue. It's a bigger issue that revolves around removing options. It is tyrannical. It is statist. And we have to accept that that's what's happening. We have to acknowledge it, and we have to attest and affirm that as Americans, we are in the best position as individuals to make choices in our lives in consultation with our physicians and our families, period.
A phenomenal point. Yeah. What are the psychological implications of children wearing masks? Because when I was in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and I saw 5-year-olds wearing these masks, and they looked miserable, and they looked confused. And I say this very, confidently. I'm so glad I didn't grow up in America where I had to grow up with a mask on. What are the implications of this?
Well, aside from the fact that they're absolutely useless and that kids won't abide by putting them on, which sort of renders the whole point moot, they are actually psychologically damaging. They instill and reinforce fear. I keep getting back to this point about fear because I think it's really the crux of this entire issue right now. Without managing the fear, we cannot move forward. I see dozens of children every week, about a quarter of whom don't wear masks. Parents appropriately dissuade them from using them. About half of the kids are sort of on and off the mask, and about a quarter are on the mask all the time. What I've noticed is that in families that insist that their children wear masks or that limit their children's activities to activities that require masks, which is actually quite common now in Los Angeles. Kids are not allowed to play with one another, they're not allowed to bike, they're not allowed to go to the park. A private park in my neighborhood where I live was just closed 4 days ago because the homeowners association noticed that there were, this is their bulletin by the way that I'm quoting, too many children not wearing masks in the park, and that the grass might become contaminated, and that because children like to touch the grass and roll in it, they could become infected and then kill their grandparents that they're living with. So they sprayed toxic chemicals on the grass in order to disinfect the grass. And it's now going to be closed for 30 days with the option of renewing on a 30-day rolling basis, sort of like the lockdown. What happens to kids when they live in that kind of environment? What they learn is that everything is scary, everything is dangerous, they are dangerous, their friends are dangerous, the grass is dangerous, they could kill grandfather. As of right now, the number is, wait for it, 0. There is not a single documented case of transmission from a child to an adult in any of the school systems. There's no death of a child in the state of California under the age of 18 from coronavirus that's documented by the CDC, which we know exaggerates numbers, but you can't exaggerate 0. Multiply it by any number, it doesn't go up. So my concern as a child psychiatrist is seeing this. I am seeing a generation of children who are learning by mask wearing, mask enforcement, mask police, and mask shaming, because it happens, we've all seen it. We all saw it here the first day when we walked around the Capitol steps and the Supreme Court steps. People walk up to you about 2 feet away and tell you that they're contaminating each other, you and them, because they're not wearing a mask. Why they wouldn't stay more than 6 feet apart is beyond me. But what they're being taught, the children, is that everything is scary and fearful and dangerous. So what happens is the children stay at home, they don't go out. I'm putting aside all of the health problems like immunologic issues, rashes, heart disease, obesity, etc. Putting that to the side for a moment, their emotional development becomes stunted. They become scared and phobic. They're unable to then associate with people outside the home, to engage in conversation, to date, to marry. I'm going down the line here, 10, 20, 30 years down the line. We're going to have an entire generation of youngsters who are going to become adults, who are going to become afraid to live outside of the basement. That is, I'm not exaggerating this, I don't think. And often they're comfortable with it. And comfort is a very, very bad thing to be living in for a long time when you're not challenged. We know it with adults who are being paid extra money to stay home and not work. They don't want to go back to work because it's more comfortable. When kids become too comfortable in an environment that's not healthy, they stay comfortable and they stay sick and they don't grow and they don't develop. And to have a whole 10, 20 years worth of kids not actually becoming part of our country and achieving their potential is not just an error. It is not an error. It was an error to close the schools. This is negligence. This is abuse.
It's diabolical.